Oh, hello, people. For some reason, the video was skipping. Anyway, how's it going? I will be doing a video today on the Feast of Purim, which started at sundown. Because you know how we Jews are, we like to start things at sundown. It's the way we work, it's the way we roll. But anyway, I'm going to read some from books about the Feast of Purim first. I'll probably comment as I, excuse me, as I go along, but I figure I will read various books. Root beer, I promise. Barks root beer. Anyway, that's the first book I'm going to read from. It's a cool book. I've had this for years. Alright. Yeah, I know I should have marked it, but I didn't, so deal with it. Let's see. Yeah, there's Purim. Well, Feast of Purim, by the way, comes from the Book of Esther. For you non-Old Testament types who don't read the Ketuvim, which, if I remember correctly, means writings in Hebrew. It's the non-prophets ones. Purim is the carnival festival of Jewish life, a carefree day of rejoicing for spectacular events recorded in the Book of Esther. Each year in February or March, Purim recalls the plot of Haman to destroy the Jews of Persia. Side note, all you people who tried to destroy the Jews, you're now extinct as empires. I take that under advisement if I were you. And the bravery of Queen Esther and the wisdom of Mordecai, who together saved their people from death. Purim is a time for masquerading parties, a custom borrowed from the Christian neighbors who celebrated Mardi Gras about the same time. I don't think they're going to do Mardi Gras this year. I doubt it. The carnival idea itself is neither Christian nor Jewish, but dates back to some primitive early spring celebration. Okay? The Purim celebration has been a kind of a safety valve for Jews suffering under the yoke of a persecution. They would gather in the synagogue on the eve of Purim and listen to the dramatic events portrayed in the Megillah, the scroll, Book of Esther, in the Bible. Whenever Haman's name was mentioned, the children would set up a den with noisemakers to express their condemnation of the villain. After the reading, sweet cakes would be passed around, gifts exchanged, bounties distributed to the poor. We do like to eat a lot in our celebrations, don't we? Except for Yom Kippur. We're not allowed to eat anything on Yom Kippur. The Megillah, I'm probably not saying that correctly, but the Megillah itself has always been a beautiful and intricately illustrated manuscript. Jewish artists, limited by the ban against the making of images, expressed some of their finest talents in such synagogues and in synagogue objects as the Megillah. Basically, the Torah scrolls, and probably the thing that's encased them. There's a name for it, and I didn't look it up, so shoot me. I will eventually. When I do the Passover video, I'll look all this stuff up. This was an idea I had today, so I'm kind of winging it a little bit. Many beautifully illuminated scrolls in the Middle Ages have been preserved, as well as the metal cases which contain them. These cases were often made of silver filigree of exquisite design, represent a craftsmanship and artistry of a very high order. I was right for those cases. Lawless, gay, abandoned Purim is also a day of spiritual comfort, a reminder that tyrants perish and that evil can gain only temporary victory and man's struggle for freedom. Among very Orthodox Jews, it is customary to fast on the day before the Feast of Purim in remembrance of the fast ordained. This is a good book, though. There's all kinds of cool stuff there. I have another book over there that's a little bigger. I should have brought that over. Well, maybe I will. I'll do a two-parter on this thing or something. But anyway, now I'm going to read from the Hebrew Bible. Well, Jewish Christian Hebrew Bible. Let's see. As I was saying, the Book of Esther actually belongs to the group of writings of the Hebrew Bible, I might add. There's what's called the Ketuvim, which is in Hebrew the writings. And those books would be Psalms, Proverbs, Job, Song of Solomon, Ruth, Lamentations, Ecclesiastes, which is my favorite book, by the way, of the Old Testament. Esther Daniel, Ezra, Nehemiah, First and Second Chronicles. I don't remember why those are considered the Ketuvim writings, the chronicle parts, Nehemiah and Ezra, but that's where they are in the Hebrew Bible. That's where they are in this Bible anyway. It's given to me by a friend of mine. But anyway, let me read what this is. Okay, here we go. The name Esther is apparently derived from the Persian word for star, Stara. Esther's Hebrew name would have been Hadassah. I'm not going to try to tell I'm saying that correctly. Hadassh, meaning myrtle. Okay. The Babylonian Talmud attributes the writings of Esther to the men of the Great Synagogue. Josephus affirmed that Mordecai wrote the Book of Esther. Others affirm that Mordecai wrote the Book of Esther sometimes between 460 and 350 BCE. Esther was written for the Jewish people, especially to display the providence of God in regards to Israel. Esther records the institution of the Feast of Purim and keeps the memory of God's salvation alive for future generations. Purim is the plural word for pur, the lots that were used to determine the fate of the Jewish people at the hands of the evil Haman. The Book of Esther is read at the Feast of Purim to commemorate, if I can learn how to talk properly, commemorate the great deliverance of the Jewish nation brought about by God through Esther. In the Jewish world, the Purim-Spiels, I don't speak German, I'm sorry, it sounds German to me, plays based on reading of the whole Megillah. Well, I guess it's a German word for plays on the events of Esther. Well, that makes sense. While the Yellow Scrolls are often acted out by young and old alike, drawing the children into recounting the loving care of God for his people, often uncared about. Commentators throughout the ages have drawn poignant parallels between the characters in the Book of Esther and the divine drama that unfolds in their lives. In his sovereignty, God knew that the descendants of the Amalek and Agag would persecute and trouble the Jewish people, just as Moses and Saul had dealt with these, so it was Mordecai's turn in his day with their descendants, Haman. Haman was not a nice guy. God is the hero of Esther, although he is never mentioned by name. In fact, his divine oversight has been a source of comfort to the Jewish people throughout time. This short tale provides ample evidence of his sovereignty and his commitment to his purposes. When all seems lost, God wins today and preserves his people. Esther is a brilliant type of the bride of the Messiah. Mordecai coaxes and challenges her in Esther 4:13 as her natural uncle, Esther 2:7, much as the Holy Spirit prompts individuals to actions, with Haman as Satan, the adversary, Esther 3:6. In play, the horrible drama is set. God then invites Esther to participate in his response. Today, as in yesterday, God is offering another woman, the believing community, an opportunity to participate in his plan for Israel and the Jewish people. Romans 11:18. His new covenant bride must recognize her Jewish roots and proclaim her kinship through the credible witness, intercession, and participation in rescue when appropriate. Thankfully, more believers are coming to understand these issues as the era of Messiah draws near. Okay. It's a cool book, though. Now I'm going to read a slight history lesson on the whole subject. Because you know me, I can't do something on a little history. Won't be the point. Okay. I will show you the map of the Persian Empire, but that may be too small for you to see it. Should have brought the other book. I have one. Okay. Chronology of the Book of Esther. Xerxes becomes king 486 BC. Xerxes holds his banquet, deposes Vashi 483 BC. Persia fights Greece and is defeated 482 to 479. Esther becomes queen, Esther 216-17. Well, it says December 479 to January 478, but okay, it's all right. Get that. Where to get the exact dates from, but okay. Haman plots against the Jews, Esther 3:7. Xerxes issues the edict against the Jews, Esther 3:12. Xerxes issues the edict to protect the Jews, Esther 8:9. The day of destruction, Esther 8:12. First Purim celebration, Esther 9:17-19. And this says it's March 8 to 9, 473 BC. Okay. I wasn't there, so I'm not going to argue at the moment. But they do have interesting names, what I'm telling you. Anyway, when God made his covenant with Israel in the wilderness of Sinai, he promised to bless his people if they obeyed him, but to send them into exile if they disobeyed or were disloyal. Over and over, the people rebelled, and God sent the prophets to warn them. At last, he allowed Assyria to destroy and deport the northern tribes of Israel in 722 BC. The southern tribe of Judah was spared them, and the people concluded that they were invincible because God was protecting them. But because they did not give up their sin, the unthinkable happened. God let Babylon smash Jerusalem and exile the Judahites. The first exiles left Jerusalem in 605 BC with a promise that Babylon would rule for 70 years. Jeremiah 25:11-12. As prophesied, Isaiah 45:1-7, Cyrus of Persia defeated Babylon in 539 BC and instituted a new policy for his subjects. Deported peoples could return to their native lands and rebuild temples to worship their native gods, so as long as they remained loyal to Persia, paid their taxes, of course you gotta pay your taxes, and offered prayers to Cyrus. Cyrus intended this merely as a shrewd way of cementing an empire, but the effect was that the Jews were free to return to Judah, hence the books of Ezra and Nehemiah. However, fewer than 50,000 Jews actually did return to Judah in 438 BC, Ezra 2:64. Perhaps 10 times as many stayed in Babylon, Persia, Egypt, and other places where they had settled. The many who had acquired property and businesses in pagan lands chose not to risk the journey to Judah, where fickle weather and hostile neighbors guaranteed poverty and hardship. Not the same people who built Israel in 1948, but their sons and daughters did. So, Cyrus's son, Cambyses, I have no idea how to say that name, Cambyses, was less friendly to the Jews than his father. But his sister, Darius I, finally agreed to finance the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem. They went blinky for another. He solidified the. Where was I? Oh, the screen went weird. Anyway, let's see. Where was I? Construction had been halted from 536 to 520 BC because of the opposition from a non-Jewish population of, well, they call it Palestine, but I'm sorry, it's still Judah. Darius was tolerant of ethnic minorities as Cyrus had been, and he was also a superb leader. He solidified the Persian Empire from India to northern Sudan, Esther 1:1. Improved administration, introduced coinage, standardized weight and measures, took an interest in the welfare of his subjects, but his new taxes were causing empire's downfall. Like most empires. Unless they're attacking Jews, and then they die from that. Darius' son succeeded him on his death in 486 BC. Xerxes is the Greek version of the new king's Persian name, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Not even going to try. I have a book on Persian. I even have a language table on Persian, but I'm not going to try to say that. The Book of Esther calls him Ahasuerus, which is probably mispronounced by me. But I'm not Persian, I'm Jewish. Which is the Hebrew version of his name. Let's see. The Greek historian Herodotus, who was born around the time of Xerxes, took the throne, wrote a history of the wars between Greece and Persia. About a third of his book dealt with the reign of Xerxes. Herodotus describes Xerxes as bold, ambitious, handsome, stately, and self-indulgent in every area. At one point, Xerxes, attracted to his brother Mrs. wife, when she rebuffed him, Xerxes first married her daughter to his son. Darius then seduced her himself Okay, Xerxes allowed his wife to take revenge on her daughter, I guess. Okay, this is very confusing. I'm not even going to try to finish it. I'm sorry. This just seems to be going off on a tangent that I don't need to worry about because it doesn't really matter. I just thought a little history might be kind of fun, or at least give you an idea because it is interesting. I love history. Let's see. Esther is one of the latest of the Old Testament books to be written. Its author is unknown, but he was almost certainly a Jew living in the Persian Empire, perhaps even Susa, where he had an accurate knowledge of Persian customs and terms as modern archaeologists have. His description of the citadel of Susa was precise. He probably wrote after Xerxes' death in 465 BC. When such an unflattering portrait of the king would not have endangered either himself or Mordecai or Esther. He probably wrote before Alexander the Great conquered Persian Empire in 331 BC, where he used Persian words frequently but never Greek ones. Let's see. Esther has been called a historical short story, even as an invented one, which is probably why it's in the Ketuvim part of the writings, because that's poetry and stories and such. But whatever. It was probably intended to be It was probably intended in part to be read liturgically at celebrations of the Jewish feast of Purim, which was commemorated in the events the book recounts. Recently, I'm not going to bother with that part. Let's see, blah 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 blah. I'm just trying to get out the important stuff. Well, important stuff to me. I doubt you are all interested in any of this, but I am. And it is Purim, so I'm doing this, and I need a drink. I mean, there is a good movie about Esther. It's called One Night with the King. Not a bad movie. It I think it was made 10 odd years ago, somewhere around there. Okay. Let's see. Okay, that's the book I was reading all that stuff from. I was trying to find books I had that would at least give an idea of Esther and so on and so forth. But that's okay. Some good books. They don't talk about the Feast of Esther, but these two books on the Seven Feasts of Israel, they're excellent. I will discuss the Seven Feasts of Israel. And that one's very good. I like Passover. I'll do Passover like I'm doing this, but I'll do a little bit better. I'll be a little I'll have more material. So I'll better organized. This was a spur of the moment kind of thing for today. I thought I should at least do something because it is Purim. But Zoe Levitt is probably the most influential Bible teacher that I know about from the show I used to watch. In fact, he's the only teacher on TV I ever watched. All the rest of them to me were frauds. I'm sorry. They were boring frauds and they most loved the cults. But Zoe Levitt was a good Jewish teacher, taught the Bible, was an excellent book. I have more of his books. But he is interesting. Unfortunately, he died years ago, but I would say that he probably influenced me the most about Jewish Christian things, mostly about Jewish things related to the church, related to the Old Testament, related to the Passover, the Feast of Israel, the little details, the little things that, unfortunately, the modern church and even basically the church over 2,000 years decided, this isn't important. This is too Jewish. Let's get rid of it. Yeah, that's partly why the church basically is the mess it's in. I'm sorry. I'm not really sorry. But I will take these feasts over anything the church has come up with. I'm sorry. Because these are the real feasts, not the ones the church has created. Easter is not Easter, it's Passover. Let's return to Passover. The church actually should be doing all 7 of them. Well, yeah, all 7 of them, including Yom Kippur, where you have to, fast and think about your sins and wonder, I should be doing better than I am doing. But anyway. But there's another book I was going to bring over here. I can't remember where it is. Yeah, remember all these books in this room are piled and shelf behind books, and I would have to try to find it, and I think I would be gone so long from the camera. I think people would think I left the room. But again, look up Blow 11. The ministry now without him has, I think it's changed a little bit. But his books, the books he wrote, are worth having. These are very short books, very small. Some of them are. I mean, let's see. I'd have to hunt for the book, and I don't know where it is. I should have done that before I started this. Well, live and learn. Live and learn. But yes, I didn't grow up Jewish. I didn't discover it until much later, and I really wish. Quite interesting. I wish I had. I like to. I do Passover of sorts when I'm here by myself. I got my menorah. Actually, I got two menorahs. I got one there and one there. I got my prayer shawl and my Israeli flag shirt over there. My actual flag, and then there's that flag. The same flag, but that one's big. That one, people from the window can see it. Yes, I did that on purpose. Just like I have my Hanukkah thing still sticking up there on the window. It's been there since I moved in. But anyway, I think Esther is an interesting book. I mean, God's never mentioned, but He is there. The events are interesting story. I think the church could learn a lot from Esther. I think it should, because it's slowly descending into, I don't know what it's descending into. How about a mess? It could be doing better. It could be learning a lot, and it's not. I mean, it's just not. I mean, I know I'm distracting myself because I really wanted to talk a little bit more. I might do another one tomorrow. Maybe I'll do a part 2 of Esther tomorrow because apparently I need that book. So, people, I hope you're not too bored by this part 1 on my Esther Esther introduction. Please stop around. You know, as I always say, stay out of trouble, people, because I ain't going to. All right. I'll do a part 2 tomorrow. I'll do a part 2 tomorrow.